coming up at the same
Okay,
time.
as well, Janet, you can join.
Everyone, I can't see everybody back there, but I know you're there. So, we're here tonight to talk about and listen to Jim Madrid talk about his journey over the past year or so. Jim and I have known each other for a long time. We both moved into the same neighborhood, over 27 years ago. Countless golf outings, countless discussions in the driveway, countless discussions on his front porch. Can I say front porch here in California?
I think so.
We have those in Texas. Countless discussions on his front porch. And it was a little over a year ago, last April, when I got a phone call from Jim. He actually called me from the hospital and told me of his cancer diagnosis. Needless to say, we were both wrecks trying to get through that conversation. And over the course of the next year or so, well, since then, up and even till today, I stop by regularly. We sit on this front porch with Bella, which is my wonderful dog.
Spoiled
Wish you were
dog.
here tonight.
Spoiled dog. Very spoiled dog.
Sit on his driveway, get updates, and this has been going on for well over a year. And through the course of this, in listening to these updates and what's happening to him, boy, it began to dawn on me, this is a special message. This shouldn't just be heard by me and Bella sitting on the front porch.
Bella got a lot out of it, though.
It did go out.
She's really come
A lot
around,
of truths.
John.
So it was clear a lot of people should be sitting in on that conversation. So that started the thinking of inviting Jim to our Rotary Club to come talk about his journey. And so that ultimately led to this. Obviously, this is more than our just Rotary Club, but the mission the message needs to go beyond just our Rotary Club. Jim has given thousands of presentations. He could give motivational presentations in his sleep. But tonight is different. This one is very personal, and I'm probably speaking for Jim, but probably very difficult for him. So it's not going to be a presentation. We're going to have a front porch conversation. You're going to be pretending you're sitting on the front porch with Bella and I as he talks about his journey. So before I turn the microphone over to Jim, I want to tell you a little about his professional life. He is a certified applied practitioner of positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania. For over 30 years, he's been working with Fortune 500 companies. Over 500,000 people have been through this program. He's the author of an Amazon bestseller. This book,
Plug that book, John.
Get Over It and Get On With It. This is a great book. It's a great book to read, but I'll caution you, don't try to use this line with your wife.
No,
It won't
don't.
go over. Jim has...
Thanks. A little late on that message. You should have told me that before I titled that. Right, honey?
Jim has written countless articles and had them published on self-esteem, mindset, confidence, culture, and just having a good attitude. He's worked with NFL players, NBA players, a lot of professional athletes, and if you're a Seattle Seahawks fans, he worked with Pete Carroll on his Win Forever platform.
Did we lose anybody just now on that one?
Well, you know, you're not a Cowboy fan yet, but I'm still working on it. This little short list, it doesn't even begin to do justice to his professional accomplishments. But it does scratch the surface a little of the lives that he has impacted over the last 30 years, and especially the lives of young people, which has sort of been his forte. So Jim, I'm gonna let you take over the mic, and before you get into your actual journey over the last year, I've talked to him about your professional life. Tell him a little about Jim Madrid, the man.
So thanks, John. And first off, thank you to Rotary. I've done several things with them over the past years, and I'm always honored to be a part of the service kind of culture that Rotary is all about. So thank you to all you Rotarians for having me again. It's great to be here, and thank you to all of you that are here, especially my family and friends that are here. I've got an extra special friend here too tonight. The guy that came in a suit, the only guy in a suit, because he doesn't live here in Southern Cal. Art is my laser zapper. That's what I call him. I got to spend a total of 15 days with Arthur being zapped. And oh, look who just came in on time, Laura. Laura, they both work at City of Hope, and if you haven't been to City of Hope, go up there and see them because they are miracle workers. They are absolutely incredible. I love them both very, very much. And it's Art and I we hit it off. I was the first one in last summer when the City of Hope, I was on the first day that they opened. That's right. Right. Laura was trying to figure out what the hell do I do with this guy. And so it's remarkable, and we'll talk more about that. I'm a husband to my beautiful wife of some 27, 30 years that we've been together. Darcy, my wife. I have 5 beautiful children, 1 special daughter who's in the back, 4 boys and a daughter. She's growing up tough. Her boyfriend, Mike Fischetti, next to him. And I have 6 beautiful grandchildren. And and a lot of good friends that I've known for a very, very long time. And I'm just honored that you all came. Thank you, Shelley, Dan, for coming.
Okay, so like I said, it was about a year and a half ago when I got that phone call. And Jim, that was, I think, around April 2022 when truly your world was turned upside down. So tell us what happened.
Wow. So about November of 2021, I started feeling a little acid reflux, and that's what I thought it was. And it got progressively worse. Finally went to my primary doctor, and she prescribed some Protonics or whatever it is, and it really didn't do anything. That was the beginning of March. And then woke up on a Friday morning, April 1st, no fooling. Woke up April 1st, coughed up some stuff that shouldn't be being coughed up, and Darcy said, that's it, we're going to the hospital. So we zapped up to the hospital, and they hit me with a battery of tests, and they ran one, and they saw something on my liver, and then they decided to do more total abdomen scans, and that was late on a Friday night, so nothing could happen until Saturday morning to get the results. And Darcy and I were just like, wait, we didn't call the kids yet. Then the doctor came in, and again, like John said, this is different territory for me, so please forgive my emotions, okay? But it is not the easiest thing. And the doctor came in and told us it was stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And so Darcy and I, we hugged, cried. Toughest thing was to get the kids on the phone. And we got them on the phone. And my daughter and I have, like I have with all my kids, but she's super special. She's little Jim in a female role. And for you that know her, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She bounces off all the walls just like I do, go, go, go all the time. And I heard her cry out, "Oh no." And so we heard the boys sniffling too. And my wife said, "Today's about crying. Tomorrow we go to work to support your father to beat this thing." She had to leave and go down because Devin was downstairs waiting to get in. At that time, we can only have one visitor at a time. And when she left and the doctor left, I had a nurse come in, this young nurse, and she was looking at my chart and she said, "Wow, I've never seen anybody with this much cancer in them." I said, "Well, probably not a good thing to say." You know, and I said, I'm okay with it, kinda, but, you know, today I was looking at some old records, those records of that first day, and yeah, there was a lot of cancer, John. In fact, later that day, then Devin came in, and we're lying next to each other, and she's hugging me, and she said, "Dad?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You need to remember one thing." I said, "What's that?" She goes, "You're Jim Madrid."
Jim Madrid!
So I put it like Darcy flipped the switch on, and my daughter and my kids just made the room a lot brighter, and my head space went there. There was a special nurse that came in right after that nurse left, and I told her about this nurse, what she said. She goes, "Oh my gosh, she said that?" And I went, "Yeah." And interesting enough, Dana was incredible, and in fact came in the day on Sunday just to check up on me. And I left the hospital on a Monday, knowing, and all she knew was that I had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And this last St. Patrick's Day, my daughter and Mikey are down here in San Juan, standing in line to go into Patty's. Get to talking to a young couple behind him. Turns out it was Dana. It was my nurse. And she, you know, Devin, it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm usually sound asleep by 10. And I get this ring, and it's my daughter FaceTiming me in the bar. "Dad!" I go, "What?" She goes, "Do you remember your nurse?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Dana!" And I started crying. Dana, I got up, got dressed, and went down. We sat there and hugged each other. She's been over to our house many times. She was just there on Father's Day. And I pulled her aside, her and her husband, and I said, "Dana, you belong at City of Hope." And she goes, "But I love my patients." And I said, "I know. More the reason why you need to be at City of Hope. They need help. They need nurses like you. They're building a brand new hospital there. The cancer treatment center is there already. It is absolutely the most state-of-the-art thing." Art and I walk in to get my radiation the first time back in August, and I saw this machine. It's like, oh my God, what is going to happen to me? And both of them made it so comfortable for me. And I just finished, 2 weeks ago, I finished 10 days with the two of them and their team, and they're magnificent. So, yes, that's what happened to me on April 1st and 2nd of 2022.
Wow.
Jim, you covered this a little, but talk just a little more about your internal reaction, your initial reaction to all of this news.
Scared as hell, literally. But I thought about it. Somebody was talking to me about it the other day. But I wasn't horrified. Yes, I was scared. My father passed away from pancreatic cancer. His cousin passed away from pancreatic cancer. I was scared, but you know, I think it's been in my DNA to have a very optimistic, character. My father was, when they came out with the glass half full or half empty, he goes, "That doesn't make any damn sense. What if I just want a sip? Does that make me a negative? A pessimistic?" He was. He got in an accident at 86 years old. He lived here in San Juan. 86 years old, calls me up one day, leaves me a voicemail message saying, "Son, I've been in an accident. I'm okay. Give me a call." So I call him up. I go, "Dad, what happened?" Here's how my father explained what happened. "I ran into some of the nicest people today." That was my dad. So it was in my DNA, and I reflect back on that, and I just think that I knew I was going to come away with this. I knew I could handle this. Yes, were there dark moments? Absolutely. When you start thinking about my wife, my family, grandkids that I haven't seen yet, my work, I got way too much to do to let this thing affect me, and that's the attitude I took. It was, take it as a death sentence or an opportunity to triumph, and I took the latter. I took the opportunity to triumph. And I knew that there had been so many advances since my father in 2008 passed away from this terrible disease. And I knew that, so that was good. All the different oncologists that we saw, I was doing a workshop many years ago, and somebody in the group said, what would you do if your doctor gave you 30 days to live? Went around the room, I'd sell my house, travel around the world, whatever money I had left, I'd give it to charity, I'd spend every wake hour with my kids, blah, 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 blah. It came to me and said, what would I do? If the doctor gave me 30 days to live, I'd get a second opinion. That was what I would do. Think differently, and that's what I do. I thought my faith came into it. I teach, one of my students is here from JCR. Where are you, Austin? Are you still here? There he is, back here in the room. I worked with Austin in the JCR boys soccer team last year. We ended up being number 1 in the country, right, Oz? Right? And even to the JCR team, those boys all knew what was going on. To have 32 boys be your best friends, and we had a heck of a season, didn't we, Oz? And it was incredible. And I knew that I was in a battle. And I thought to myself, the good Lord gave me this battle, and He chose me. I teach mental toughness. And I think He was saying, okay, Mr. Mental Toughness guy, let's see how mentally tough you are. I got this unique opportunity to battle for my life, and there's not many of us that get that opportunity, and I'm not the only one here that's had cancer, am I? Who else has dealt with cancer in the room? Well, then we're all warriors, and it does take a village, doesn't it? And I had a village, and City of Hope was my village, my family, my neighbors, my friends, my basketball buddies. There's 3 of my guys that we play basketball. Look at these young guys back here in the back of the room. Craig, stand up, Craig. Stand up, Craig. And they make me guard Craig.
Still can't keep up.
No. Don't even try, Craig. You'll hurt yourself.
You heard Jim talk about having a positive attitude. You're going to hear so much more about that as he finishes his discussion. I will say there's one downside to that Matthew and I experience a lot when we play golf with Jim. Playing golf for us is 90% negative. And if you can't complain about shots and beat yourself up and beat your clubs up, what's the fun? Difficult to do that when you're playing with Jim.
I want to do that. Not unless we're playing for money.
Yeah.
Then if we're playing for money, you guys knock yourself out. But, in fact, I'll help you with that negative thing. It's okay with me.
Well, so Jim, you talked about being afraid, and what a natural reaction to that. Is there anything else you want to add to that after this settled in about your mindset, and more particularly about how maybe your family reacted to this after it all settled in?
Darcy added another thing to it too, and that was all this is going to do is give us stronger legs for bigger strides. And it is. And by the time I got home, she had poster signs in the front yard, right? You guys, you got this, Jimmy. Good vibes only. On the doors to our house, still to this day, if you walk into our house, it says, positive talk only beyond this door. And I'm not up here and I told John and I have had this conversation before. In fact, I've gone to him many times because I've been asked to talk a few times about this. And I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me. I just think if today, this world that we live in, with everything that's going on in our society, the polarization of everybody, social media. I mean, years ago, I had a cousin named, all he was doing was posting all this negative stuff, and I told my daughter, I said, watch this. I'm going to post something positive, and I'm going to prove to you that misery loves company. So Danny put something really negative up, and I posted up next to him, and I said, hey, Danny, I know you. Post something positive. That's just like you. Some guy went off on me, called me an effing moron, doesn't even know who I am. Just a whole paragraph went off on me. And I said, right, misery loves company. And it's easy. And so my message is of hope. And you know, if I can do this, and some of our other survivors and warriors that are in here, you know, somebody said something to me the other day, and I said, hey, I forget what it was, or they were having some challenge, and I said, I'll trade you. I'll trade you. Put it in perspective, right? You got to put it all in perspective. I'll trade you. And they go, oh, yeah, I get it. But my mindset has always been, watch what I do with this. Watch what I do.
You know, Jim, you mentioned the J. Sarah soccer team. You also worked with Rancho Santa Margarita girls soccer team.
They were number 2 in the country.
Yeah, you guys were number 1. The girls were number 2 in the country. Amazing. And I've heard you talk so many times about process. And you had a process that you implemented in making these teams a success. I have no doubt you had a process as you tackled this obstacle. So
Yeah.
talk a little about that process.
So first off, I want to say that I never take credit for what the Austin and the team did. I'm not just part of the puzzle. It takes a village, right, Austin? It took a village. We have 10 coaches on that team. But the culture was there. And there's a process that I use with athletes and teams. Great coach that I got to work with, if you know MLS soccer, Ziggy Schmidt, probably the top was, God rest his soul, soccer coach, winningest soccer coach. In fact, the MLS Coach of the Year award is called the Ziggy Schmidt Award. And we got to talking, and I said, you know, Ziggy, I'm not going to come in here and goal set to win the MLS championship. He goes, yeah, that's what I call a given. And so I don't go into teams and say, hey, I mean, I can ask the team, say, who doesn't want to win the championship? You know, they're not going to raise their hand. Everybody wants to win the championship. So what's the process? That we're going to crush this year to get us to the championship, and then we're going to measure that along the way, and then reset that to win the championship, and then continue to reset and measure. And so that was the technical part of the game, the fundamentals of the sport, whatever it may be. The tactical part of the game, offense, defense, positions, the physical part of the game. And then I ask you, what percentage of sports, Gus, what percentage of golf is mental? Especially your game. It's, you know, we get 100%, 80%, 100%. I was talking to the athletic director at Texas A&M, you know, last year, and he said, wait a minute, I just told you 100% of the game is mental. Ask me how much time I spend on coaching it. And so we have the mental capacity, and then teamwork. And today we had a meeting with all the team today, and we added 2 more things for them personally, and that was academics and life at home. So my process was spiritually, holistically, what I teach, along with what my daughter brought into, you know, the whole picture with sound bowls and crystals, and you know, nutrition was a part, and so was my family, and you know, love and support from my family and friends, and that was the process. And you know, I write out words under each one of those columns. that identify, something that I'm going to do. So spiritually, I was talking to somebody asked me that question, same question. I said spiritually, and he rolled his eyes back. I go, what are you doing that for? I'm not up here preaching. You asked me. And so yes, I'm Catholic. I was born and raised Catholic. I have great faith with my family, and my wife and I, every Sunday we go to church, and we pray, and it's a big part of my life. I was born and raised that way. So spiritually, holistically, it went into that list, that process. It went into affirmations. It went into mindfulness. I spend 30 minutes in the morning. That time, for the first 4 weeks, longer than 4 weeks, but I was doing 30 minutes. My son Jamie, his girlfriend came down. They live in Seattle, and they came down, and she's a yoga master or whatever.
Yeah.
She's amazing. So she put together, and I would highly recommend this for any of you, because it doesn't take this to do that. But we spend 30 minutes, and she put together what she called a yoga nidra, and it's a visualization, a body scan, and for 30 minutes. And who uses a living room anymore? So that became my meditation room. And if you walk into the room, right, Jackie, you see it. There's the mat laying between the two couches. And what was cool is that like Darcy would hold my hand, Devin would hold my hand, Chris Williams, that's not here. Some of you know Chris. He would come and they would pray and be there too with me, and just giving me all that good energy. Nutrition, just eating the right food. And I'm not a junk food, never have been. And by the way, I was never a smoker either. And then, and just that love and support and that energy. And that's kind of the thing I work when I talk to companies now, is that environment. What was it? Do you guys remember it was years ago that Detroit was having so much violence, and they did one day of prayer, and the violence went down by over 65. I just looked that up today. 65% violence went down in that one day. Could we do that now? If you're on Instagram or Facebook or, post positive stuff. Misery loves company. And to sit there and read some of that stupid, and I've been guilty of it, I've done it, I got pissed off and just lit somebody up, and then they lit me up, and then, so to what good does it do? You're not gonna, so, yeah, it's been that mindset, and that's kind of like, that process has helped me, and it continues to help me.
Going through this process, along with that, of course, is the treatment for your condition. So talk a little about your treatment over the last year, and especially the relationship with City of Hope, medical practitioners.
So, first off, after 4 weeks, I total at that time I had seen 3 oncologists. And I went up to Duarte to City of Hope because you guys weren't open yet. And it came into Dr. Kim up there, or Lim, Dr. Lim, and he was fantastic. And and mind you, every morning and every night, 30 minutes, prayer, mindfulness for 4 weeks. And I visualize, I think if you're looking at the treatment, was my self-treatment that I had to work on first. And that treatment was, we had people coming over. It was crazy. I mean, and everybody's an expert. Everybody's an expert. Everybody knows what's going to fix you, right? And God bless them. And they all mean well. But I've never had so many books on cancer in my life sent to me. And I didn't need all the detail. If you talk to Art, I didn't ask him all the nitty-gritty about what that machine does. I go, Art, just do your magic. But he kind of told me enough that I needed to know. That's all. And some people need a lot more. I did not need to know the nuclear structure of a cancer cell. I did not need to know that. All I knew that my pancreas Had, what was the count that they call it, Laura? It's a CAV-19 count, something like that. It's supposed to be on average for me, for us, it's supposed to be 40. Mine was 40,000 plus.
How much?
40,000 plus, over 40,000. And I was looking at those results too today, and it just said pancreatic cancer. In my liver, in 2 of the lobes, it was 4 centimeters in my lobe, and then in my lung, it was about 4.5 centimeter in my lung, and I had some in my sacrum. Art took care of the sacrum last summer. Thank you very much. Yeah. Art, there's kids in the crowd, Art. And we got it on video too, Art, so too bad. Oh well.
He knows you too well.
Yes, he does. But I would visualize when I was laying there, and also I had another thing that happened to me too, and I got to add this in. One of our best friends, Jim Axelson, I got home on a Monday, and on Thursday, Jim had a machine there. It's an electromagnetic machine, and it shoots protons into you. And what it does is stimulate your blood cells, kind of like wake up and do what you're supposed to do. And I would, while I was laying on the mat, I had the tube over me and had the machine going. Pretty amazing friend. That machine was $16,000 that he bought for me. Again, it's not just one thing, it's everything. And so then, what was it, the first week of May, went and saw another doctor at UCI. He concurred with Dr. Lim at City of Hope. And then, this is interesting, so I'd seen a nutritionist and they put me on a keto diet. Now, I dropped like 20-some pounds. Yeah. My wife and my kids call me Noodle. You know, I'm a pasta guy, so, you know, so Darcy said, well, what about nutrition and food and diet? Because he's been on this diet. The guy went off on us, didn't he? I mean, he went, why is he on a diet? He needs to eat. Go home, feed him. I went, okay. And then we got out of there, and we got a phone call from City of Hope, Duarte, that the following Friday I was going to go in and get a port, and I was going to go all the way through the end of July with chemo. And my attitude was, when do we start? When do I get to start chemo? When do I get to have chemo? When do I get it? Not, I don't have to do it, I get to do it. And I was kind of looking forward to losing my eyebrows and my hair. I'm going bald anyhow, what the heck, I might as well see it all. So we get home, and Darcy ran up, because I'm Italian, I gotta have red sauce. And so she ran up to Angelina's and got me some gnocchi with some red sauce, came home, swished that down, and about 10 minutes later I get a phone call from Dr. Lim. And he goes, get Darcy on the phone. And even UCI doctor was scratching his head, huh? He was scratching his head going, there's just something going on here. And they had taken an endoscopy of me about 3 days before that. And he said, Darcy, Jim, it's not pancreatic cancer. No chemo. It's lung cancer. So yay me. Woohoo! Darcy says, well, what do we do? He goes, feed him and get him on a golf course. Well, I have a hall pass to play golf anytime I want. That's so cool. Just doing what the doctor ordered. And we were just blown away. And then he put us, referred us over to Dr. Erminia Mozzarelli, right out of Naples, Italy. Come on, are you kidding me? And she is fabulous. She's incredible, absolutely incredible. And then when she started to have me do some procedures, I said, well, supposedly you had opened up the Irvine new City of Hope, and so I'd go there. But she then prescribed this drug. It's a targeted drug. I have no chemo. It's a targeted drug by AstraZeneca. It's called Tagrisso. And so in June, I went to Park City to do a lecture, and I gave the lecture, talked about this, and at the end of the lecture, during lunch, this young lady came up to me and said, my mother had lung cancer. And I said, had is the operative word. Tell me. They put her on this drug a year and a half ago, and it's gone. And I said, what was the name of the drug? And my good friend, Dr. Mike Foudy, if some of you know Michael, he was there with me, and Mike's an emotional guy. And she said Tagrisso, and he dropped to his knees. And that was a drug that I've been on. And I take it every day. And it's got some side effects, but I can live with those side effects versus what else some of the other warriors have had to go through. So that's my medication. And still, mindfulness.
You talk about approaching this with a positive attitude, but I think we all know you're not, people aren't always up here all the time and saying, I'm going to be positive about this, but you're not up there all the time. This is a roller coaster of emotions. So talk a little about dealing with that roller coaster, the positive and then the difficult part.
The roller coaster part on that was, that Saturday night after they diagnosed me, I'm in the hospital. I got a room all by myself, and it started to seep in, what was going on and the possibilities, and that started to happening. And then I start thinking about my wife, about my kids, that I wouldn't be here. And they just stopped, and I yelled. And if there was anybody else in the room, they would have said, I just said, stop it, Jim. Excuse my language, but I said, that's bullshit. That's not going to happen to you. And that's the attitude I've had ever since. And every time it sneaks in, that's what I say. Stop it. Thank you. It's not easy.
I think you probably answered this question, but one of the things I was going to ask you is how your life's work, the thing you've devoted yourself to for the last 30 years, I don't know if there's anything you want to add on how that's impacted this journey.
Well, of course it has. It's so great because my clients are mostly my friends. And like this deal the lecture I was doing in Park City was for a group of high performance chiropractors from all over the country. And I've been with these guys for about 20 years, and every 5 years they call me in to come do a lecture of some sort with their group. It's usually in different places. And when I called them up in April and said, hey, look, this is what's going on, they said, just book your ticket, Madrid. We know you. You're going to be there. Okay. September, I was going to Toronto, and I called Paul up, my good buddy Paul, that runs that conference. And I'm the MC for it. And so I called him up because Madrid, just booked the ticket. We know you're going to be there. I got into Toronto and got to the hotel about 10 o'clock at night. And I was at the reception, and one of my friends came up to me and they go, Madrid, what is going on with you? I'd lost so much weight. And these pants are from the little boys section out at Nordstrom. Just saying. I got one of those stretch belts that's all whacked up. The rest of it goes all the way over to here. I got it tucked in. And he just said, what's going on? So I wasn't going to say anything to the crowd, to the group the next day. And I addressed it. And the response from the group was, it changed the whole mood. It absolutely just changed the whole mood of the conference. And so that group of people have been following me along in my journey ever since. And it's been pretty, and what it's done for in Austin can tell you that when I talked to the team, and even at Santa Margarita, I was doing the sports med lectures, and football players are in there going, "What's this old guy going to talk to me about? I'd rather be on it." They're all slumped down, and then I said, talked to them a little bit about mindset, and then all of a sudden I said, "Yeah, I was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer," and these guys just sat right up, and they were going, "Wait, what?" So they, what has gone on at J. Sierra and at Santa Margarita. I also got to Andy Sulik, the president of Santa Margarita, is a good friend, and I spent a lot of work up there in the athletic department and their admin and their faculty for them. And I was asked to talk last year to the parents of the seniors that were graduating, and it's changed. You have a whole new perspective on life. You're looking through a whole different lens. And those little stupid things, it's just like, what? And so my message has changed. I wouldn't say considerably, but more impactful to a point where, the old Rodney King, can't we all just get along, And it's so difficult these days, and so if I can do anything, doing this, when John and I were out there on the courtyard, that's a courtyard in California, John. You've been here long enough. Texas, y'all can talk like that down there in Texas, but it's in the Front Porch. And so, and if we can just, if I can use my journey and others' journeys, we lost a good friend a few years back. And, I knew it would scare this young man. He lost his father to cancer. And when I talked to him and told him, I said, how are we going to tell Matthew? Matthew is a neighbor up the street, and we've watched this young man grow up. And he golfs with he and I. And then during the pandemic, he's got a little patch of turf in the front yard. We were pitching across the street. We just beat up on this poor kid. It's like, so he'd be getting ready to swing, and John and I go, and he goes, "Really, you guys?" So I think my message is that inspiration, yes. Motivation, I can't motivate anybody. I'll correct you on that, John. I'm self-taught, and I just look at how our mind is connected to performance. My wife says you need to read a fiction book every once in a while. Our library is just nothing but all this technical stuff, and when I look at some of that now, and I go, I just think the good Lord just kind of, everything I've done in the last over 30 years and my whole life has prepared me for this moment. And I hope that message gets through, that life is, it's tough. And we all have challenges. And, we can, I think, just have a better attitude about it. I came up with this, being a realistic optimist. My father taught me that, and he didn't, he used to always say that, expect the best, but be prepared for the worst. And so I coined that as a realistic optimist, which is different than a realistic pessimist. Realistic pessimists are the ones who go, come on, get real. The guy's got pancreatic cancer. He's going to frickin' die. And we had people come over. And after they left, God bless them, we just felt like they came over to say, Darcy just said, I think they came over to say goodbye to you. And you can feel that. And God bless them, appreciate them. But, it's, but go away. And I teach the kids, the players. I could have put my chin to chest like an athlete does if he misses a basket. Right, fellas? Chin to chest, oh poor me, sit on the bench and play oh poor me and victimize, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim. Well, I'm telling you right now, I am not a victim.
You betcha.
I am not a victim. I raised my daughter to say, don't be a victim. There's already too many of them. Just watch the news and you can see them come out there. Okay, enough of me.
One of the things you've mentioned a couple of times, and I tell you, from sitting on your front porch or your
Courtyard.
your courtyard, that so resonated with me was hearing you talk about how what you're going through had drawn you closer to God. So is there anything else you want to add about this faith journey?
How much time do we have? I mean, I got to tell you, the things that have happened. I got this college football player. He's Dean Janikowski. No relationship to Sebastian Janikowski, for you football guys. And he even says that in his profile. But he's the place kicker for Washington State University. And I got him 2 games into the season last year. He's done really, really well. Got to know him a lot more. I finally met him face to face when they were playing USC. And yeah, you USC people, they beat us. I mean, you guys, they beat us. Okay, big deal. So, drove up to the hotel where they were staying, got to meet Dean, and interesting that the priest for Washington State is a longtime friend of mine too. Just, somebody, there are no coincidences. There was a book that came out, I call them God Winks. It's like, we got you, God Winks.
Squire Rushnell.
Yeah, that's right, good book.
Friend of my brother's.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So, I got that book years ago.
Yep.
And so I just got these God winks that are going on everywhere. And come to find out that Dean, so that was, November? Find out that Dean's mother passed away from breast cancer in January of 2022. Father, Dean, his younger brother Jack, and his younger sister Megan. And when they're sitting there at the game, Dan asked me about this, and I told him. And then later in the week, get this box. And Darcy and I, we opened it up, and we pull out, looks like a statue of St. Francis, with the brown robe. But there were some chips out of it, so it was showing the white inside, right? And Darcy and I were looking for the pieces, and we go, who would send us this? And then there was a letter inside. And the letter was from Dan, the father, and he said, this is a statue of St. Peregrine. So I've never even heard of St. Peregrine at the time. And then he said, you can tell that it's been used a little bit, but it was next to Heather, his wife, all through her journey. And we know she would want you to have it through your journey. Then they sent me a St. Peregrine necklace too, medal. That I have, as a mentor of mine, he has been since early 90s, Dr. Robert Spitzer. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard of him, but you should. He's an incredible priest. He was on Larry King, the last few months of Larry King alive, and it was him, Father Spitzer, and Deepak Chopra debating Stephen Hawking's about the science of God, the science behind it. Father Bob has got his PhD in quantum physics, and he's a CPA. I mean, the guy is incredible. And if you look up a great book, one that we all could probably read, not unless you have a degree in quantum physics. It's a book called Finding True Happiness by Dr. Robert Spitzer. It's an incredible book. He's been a mentor to me for many, many years. Going back, just before I got diagnosed, I had a young man, I'm part of a sports agency, and they're up in Irvine, and they called me up. They got this football player, also from Washington State, and that he was having some problems, and they go, Jim, can you come up to Irvine and meet with him? So I go up there and meet him, and the young man tells me, in a private room, and he's telling me some things, and he told me about this one issue, and I said, well, have you ever talked to anybody about that before? And he goes, yeah, my priest. You were talking Pullman, Washington, okay? And I go, what's your priest name? He goes, Father Merrill. And I go, you mean Paul? And he goes, you know Paul Merrill? I go, yes, I know him very, very well. I mean, those are the kind of things that keeps happening. Another friend, his son played for Texas A&M. I worked with him all year, his last senior year at Texas A&M. And Adam Hansford is the father. And Adam says to me, he goes, hey, look, I love those chimes. It's somebody's in my backyard, I think. That's a ring chime. And turns out he was a big part of Fellowship of Christian Athletes and FCA. And so we got to go to headquarters, and because of that, I'm just going. And so now with this that happened, and then Shelley comes back into our life, and Darcy and Shelley worked together for many, many years, and we kind of waited off for her kids, our kids, and now we're kind of back together. And then Shelley comes over to the house one day, and she's been helping us with all the insurance and medical bills and all that kind of stuff. And so she hasn't been paying for them yet, but she's been helping us with it. And so she comes over and she's got a golf hat on, and it's an FCA hat. I go, what's that? She goes, oh, I'm on the board of FCA. I go, come on, are you kidding me? So it's just those God winks that just keep happening everywhere. And
I could write a book.
yes, I bet you could. And so it's to me, I've always had faith. One of the things that I talked to Father Bob about, and I also talked to Adam, because Adam is an ordained minister. And, he would pray. We'd call him up every morning and get him on the phone, and he would pray. And the first time Devin heard him pray, hung up the phone, and she goes, oh my gosh, that was like listening to God talk just now. I mean, this guy can wail out a prayer like you wouldn't believe. But I think, I truly believe that, I've got a platform, and I've got a pretty big platform. And I think I'm honored that the good Lord chose me to kind of go on this journey with him.
We're nearing an end, but just two more final questions. We all want to know where things stand today.
Where things stand today, right, Art? So, in June, I had my last PET scan and got on the phone with my oncologist, and she said, we see about a 1.8 centimeter in my lung, and we want to go ahead and hit that with some radiation. And then Darcy goes, well, what about his pancreas? She goes, oh, we don't see anything in his pancreas anymore. And we don't see anything in his liver anymore. So Dr. Lee, my radiologist up at City of Hope, when I was in there for 10 days, so he comes in just the week before I started, and he comes in, he goes, you're either a freak in nature or a walking miracle. I said, I'll take both. I'll take both. And so that's where we're at today. And lastly, it does take a village. And God bless all of you for being here tonight. And thank you, and to all my family and friends. I love you so much. And I would not be here if it wasn't for all of you.
Well, that was such an important discussion, such an important conversation. This was a great front porch talk. Thank you for being here. Heather, we'll turn this back over to you.
Jim, before you go, the motto of Rotary is service above self, and you truly are a service to others. And thank you so much for being here. You've been an inspiration, and Darcy, you've been a support, I know, for him and your family. And my heart goes out to you, and I know it's been a journey, and Thank you so much for the two of you being here tonight, for your family being here. And thank you for everybody being here. I want to say thank you more than anything to Robbie Larry Robinson, who has donated this space tonight. And it's just, this is a really, really neat venue, and we would not have this space if it wasn't for you. And I'm so glad that you brought this space to Dana Point. Very, very neat. Thank you again to everybody who helped tonight. We have a ton of food that's left over. More than anything, we have a lot of dessert. So please grab several. They're in glass containers, so you can take them home. Take a couple, please. Thank you also just for coming. Rotary is about fellowship and fun. We come for the service, but we really stay for the fellowship and the fun. So thank you all.